Thank you for having me again. I was just going back to see when was the last time I talked to you about this information. Last time I was here we were talking about adaptation, climate resiliency, and this time I'm going to do a deep dive and try to cover a bunch of topics on clean energy and what's going on in the state, what your kind of connection to that would be, what I'd like it to be, where I think there's opportunity. So the last time was really May. There was a lot going on last May 2016. So giving you a little bit of background in the clean energy industry, what's going on, what we're doing with landfill and brownfield sites in the state, the new solar legislation that's coming up, renewable thermal, there's been movement in that. That's been kind of quiet for 2 years. And then the clean energy legislation that came out last year has a host of different topics. I think there's an intersectional nexus to the work that we do, and I'm hoping there's opportunities there as well. Don't know if I'll get through all these topics, but let's get started. The Clean Energy Industry Report came out from MassDEP last year. There's the link to it there, and we'll have these slides posted. But as you can see, clean energy is providing 150,000 people with employment. 63% of those are in the solar industry. That amounts to about 14 or 15,000 folks that are building solar in the state. We're number one in energy efficiency. It's $11.8 billion industry, and it goes on and on. So it's been a really tremendous benefit to the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. On a national level, solar provides more jobs to the nation than does fossil fuels. You can see the numbers right there, pretty impressive. You've probably heard about this. It's been touted a lot in the press recently, especially with the changes in the way the country's going politically. I wanted to give a shout out to New Bedford and Mayor Mitchell, who went to Congress this year and testified on behalf of the cuts to EPA, and the focus of this a little bit was the success stories that they've been having with the renewable energy development. This is on Sullivan's Ledge. It's a Superfund site down in New Bedford. It's been a tremendous benefit to the community, and it's the vision that the community has, which is great and something that he shared in Washington, D.C. Back again to what our goals initially in the state of Massachusetts for building solar. If you remember back in 2012, we were going to try to build 50 megawatts of solar on contaminated land and 75 on landfills. Last time I spoke with you, we had 26 projects, and now 36 projects on contaminated lands in Massachusetts. 16 are still under development. Kind of sort of where they are. I don't think that map's been updated. But we're having tremendous success, and we hope to continue that. It amounts to 104 megawatts. That's the impressive number. Of course, we've obviously exceeded our goal, and our goal was up to 2020. So, landfill, same thing, 2,007 megawatts. This is really, really impressive. I think I tweeted out on this that Massachusetts is just way far ahead of the rest of the country. I was at a meeting recently in D.C. where the state of New York, which has an impressive renewable energy goal, is actually using verbatim the permitting process and the tools that we use to put solar on landfills to get theirs kind of jump-started in that state. So kudos really to our solid waste folks and all the people that are doing that work. And again, Repowering America's Land Initiative keeps track of what's going on across the nation. And we still have the most projects of any other state, 75, and you know that's a lot less than what I've been showing you in our data. You can see where those projects are located across the country. They continue to push other states to do similar things. We continue to be the nation's leader in this effort. Back last year, it was all well and good and everything was going great until a couple things happened. Our SREC2 program, its goals were met. We were trying to build out 1,600 megawatts of solar, 400 later, and it all came in and was filled up by February of last year. And that created a problem, and that was an incentive that the state offered. Secondly, net metering caps were met. They were met really early on. This is what I'm posting there is the 120,000 kilowatts that were not into the system because of those caps being met. We've talked about this in May. The legislature had to go out and pass the Solar Act to keep the momentum going, to keep building this clean energy economy in the state. And several things came out was they raised the caps, 7% and 8% respectively for private and public projects. And then you can see they gradually wanted us to transition the solar incentive program to a different type of program, one that wasn't so heavily subsidized, but would keep the business going. Next generation solar. In any event, here's the solar programs that, over the years we've been talking about. 2009, the first one really, it was a 400 megawatt goal. By 2020, we wanted to go 400 megawatts of solar, that much on contaminated landfills alone. Second, after that was filled up in 2013, way ahead of schedule, we came out with the 1,200 megawatts, which started to really focus on where we actually install these locations and to be cognizant of the environmental impact we were having. In the first program, everyone was screaming and yelling about all the trees and the green spaces being used. So we put brownfields and landfills favorability in SREC 2. That program got filled up in 2016, as I mentioned, and now we're on to what we're going to call a SMART program, the Solar Massachusetts Renewable Target. That's the new program coming out hopefully next year sometime. The anticipated date is March of 2018. More likely it's July or September. Is what most developers and consultants think, but we'll have to wait and see. And I'll talk a little bit about it in depth. In the interim, DOER is allowing for solar projects to be, there's no goal on what megawatt they're looking at. We're calling it an extension of SREC 2. The incentive has been decreased, but it still exists and folks can still do projects. And we're getting some applicants in right now who are pretty sure that they're getting next March, which is excited to know that we have activity in SREC 2 and we have 1,600 megawatts yet to be built coming up starting next year. So we just talked about the transition. So if any of you are working on a project, your SREC factor continues to decrease. Under SREC 2 is 80%, it's down to 55%. And that will be until the new program is in place. And like I said, that date might shift. Sadly, the net metering caps are already starting to be met again, even though they were raised. And this is in National Grid territory. What we're waiting to see, there's about 3 pieces of legislation pending, eliminate caps entirely, some to increase them 13%. The new solar incentive program is meant to do something about net metering caps without raising the caps. So we'll have to wait and see what happens there. But it is an issue, and it is an issue for developers, of course. We keep going back to this, it seems like. This is DOER's final program design for the SMART program. They actually had 2 programs. They released one in September of 2016. This is the latest iteration of that came out in January 2017. There's many nuances to the program. It's very complicated. I wanted to go through some of the things that I felt would interest you or actually touch you in a way that you would work with these projects and these sites. A lot of it's financial. It's a 1,600 megawatt program. It's a declining block program. We are no longer going to have SRECs. We're going to have a feed-in tariff basically pay the incentive. The blocks they're 200 megawatt blocks, and in each block there will be a decrease in that incentive each time you get in. So there's going to be, before projects would just come in and they get all the same SREC, and now see who tries to get into what block when. The reason for this is because the price of solar installations continue to decrease and the state wants to be in line with that. Instead of giving huge incentives, they want to wean us off incentives. The base rate that everybody will get is on the size of the projects. You can see on the left-hand column the different sizes, the largest being at the bottom, the 5 megawatt projects. Those will get about 14 cents. It's estimated, we don't know yet, it'll depend on how the program gets put together. 14 or 15 for those larger projects. And then after that, on to your project size. And what I've indicated is that brownfields are staying in this program. They will be incentivized by 3 cents, landfill by 4. I wish that was larger. We'll see if I can get it larger. The reason why landfills are getting incentivized more is because the utility interconnections cost so much. So we'll see. If you can do a project for me, that's community shared solar on a brownfield, large scale, that would be great. It's gonna, your all-in costs are gonna, or incentive would be really beneficial. The other thing that I was is solar energy storage. Energy storage is going to be incentivized too in the business program. It'll be a formula, so we don't know what it's going to look like, but we're going to encourage storage with solar. And then I've indicated that there will be a subtractor, and I'll explain that. So everything's going to change for brownfield for the same, as you're used to doing it in the SREC2 program. So nothing will change there, so that's good to know. I wanted to mention in the program that DOER had in September. Oh yeah, I love that. This program came out in September, and how it originally was going to work, it was great for brownfield landfill because you could only do a project there, no green space. And all of these profit limits, and it was based on GIS layers. Well, between September and January, a lot of developers looked at all these GIS layers and said, wow, there's nowhere I can do any solar projects in the state. Talked to DOER about it, decided that we wouldn't be that restrictive in how we were able to do projects. We would be on green fields or open space. So this exercise of GIS was done, and what it amounted to was you get a base rate, you get adders for these type of projects. Canopy solar, I wish Canopy solar was in a different category, but it's not. If you're on commercial industrial zone property that's been previously developed, you get the base rate. If it has been previously developed, if it's zoned that way, you're going to get a subtractor. And if it's same thing, if it's ground mounted, not CNI, you're going to get an even bigger subtractor. So you're going to actually be able to do projects on green fields. It's just going to be penalized for doing it. Get more money out here, less here. This is going to be very complicated to figure out. I think it's going to be town by town zoning. I don't know if we really know how this is going to work out in the end, but I can imagine questions to you folks as you're working on some of these projects. These were the land use categories that DOER, which I just showed you on that other thing. And what's important to note is that these three categories right here, the ground mounted on CNI, they're all going to need to follow these land use performance standards that are really been created by the Department of Agriculture. There's going to be no stripping of soil. There's going to be a lot of restrictions to the way that these projects can be developed as well, keeping the natural environment as paramount for the way the projects can be developed. So there's a lot more to this program. There's a lot about financing. There's a lot of different ways to move money around with credits and things like that. If you're interested, you go to DOER's website. Every hearing has been taped. You can listen to what they're saying. They get these slides as well. Emergency regulations were recently filed this month, and there is a public hearing at MassDEP here in Boston on July 11th if you're interested. It's always a cast of thousands for these things, and then I've given you a link if you're interested. Already? Okay. You're only going to hear about a few minutes. Renewable thermal. I said the last 2 years, we went out with the LSPs and to Dean to do training. And we really thought that ground source heat pumps, a way of obtaining heating and cooling for buildings, might be an opportunity for the LSPs to engage in, either as heating for treatment processes and remediation, or just standard heating and cooling for buildings and for the ones that are already been installed. The key was the incentives, and at the time, ground source heat pumps weren't incentivized by the state. They weren't in the APS, the alternative portfolios, so they weren't getting a REC, like solar got an SREC, they would get a REC. We would kind of call it an ACRE or something else, we know what they ended up calling. And the federal government, of course, had programs that were expiring, and believe it or not, the residential 30% tax credit expired in 2015 Congress, and now we're pretty clear that it won't be reauthorized. But in any event, there was a draft of 2014, the new regs for the APS with the incentive for ground heat pumps just came out again this month. There's a public comment if you're interested, July 14th. And I know that what the state was trying to do is, because we lost our incentives from the federal government, they really try to ratchet up what the state could offer for these technologies to keep them in line with what people might have been getting federal incentives. So there is going to be a push by the state to install these. And MassDEP has always had, and this really came out of our LSP training, there was no commercial ground source heat pump program, no way to get grants from the state for feasibility studies and installation and such. So they launched a commercial program in 2016. We still didn't have the APS out. They updated it again this year. They'll be considering what the APS changes have. But it's a $30 million program, and it's not necessarily been tapped into as much, and I was kind of hoping we would have more synergy with you folks. The buildings you're working on, or remediation you're doing, or what, or even if you're just engaged in those type of projects with a different hat on. Know that there's a big grant program out there that is open over at MassDEP. I guess let's see how far I get. The Act to Promote Energy Diversity came out soon after the Solar Act, so they split them up. This is the 1,600 megawatts of offshore wind that you hear about off of Martha's Vineyard, or the Quebec hydropower that you're hearing about. But what else is in here was an energy storage. These are small pieces. Property assessed clean energy, small hydro. There's a goal of 600 megawatts for this state to build out. They want to build it into all the grant programs and all of our APSs, and including, like I mentioned, the Solar Smart program, so that we can tap into it. It's advanced energy storage. This is more like batteries that you're hearing about, or Tesla power walls for your cars and for your homes, and that kind of thing. You can see that storage there's only 500 megawatts in the entire country. This is going to allow for us to, we don't want to generate power and then put it back on the grid during peak demand times. It's going to allow us to stabilize renewable energy's interaction with the grid, allow us to be more resilient as we start thinking about climate change effects and the lack of power in some situations. The state of Massachusetts is only 23rd in solar storage. Of course, California is first. We have a limited amount of projects across the state, so there's a big effort to build out. And these are some of the recommendations of where they want to put it. But where they want to get to is, there's a resilient service stations challenge now going on at MassDEP. And what this is all about is trying to make gas stations, service stations along evacuation routes in the state resilient from climate change effects. In other words, to be able to have power to run facilities when there isn't, so that people can obtain gas, can obtain food, and as such. What we asked for MassDEP to consider was to include a consideration of our remedial systems that are running at locations. We know that it wouldn't be the perfect scenario if the system was being used to protect the groundwater drinking water supply. Maybe it would. If it's on evacuation route, maybe it wasn't. But this at least gets us a foot in and allows us to tap into this program and see how we can keep our systems running. Some interesting examples of what's being done already is the city of Boston installs solar at its refueling stations to keep the city running in the event of climate change impacts, extreme storms, flooding. BP installed solar PV on its refueling stations, starting to run on renewable energy. This was done internationally, and MassDEP would like to see these models implemented in the state of Massachusetts. Evacuation routes has solar panels and batteries on. These are all things that you could be thinking about in the remedial systems that you have online, whether the APM system or pumpetry systems that are working to address imminent hazards, potential reduce migration considerations, and things and such, so that we can keep them operational in extreme storm events. And what this challenge is looking for right now is just really, how do you think this could work out for you? There's a bunch of different folks that have expressed an interest in them. Most of them are solar and renewable energy developers. Right now they're providing a little bit of funding just for this. These sponsors are due in July. If you're interested, what was suggested to me, and I'll suggest to you, is these folks that have expressed interest. I don't know if that makes it going to work, but you can go on MassDEP's website. You can see who those folks are, the municipalities, like I said, and talk to them. engage with them, see if there's a way that you can connect with them and make a proposal together. This would be great for us as we start looking at climate change adaptation and what we're going to do to address that. Okay, let's do this one. Property assessed clean energy for commercial buildings. This program was in the energy bill, and it's going to be run jointly by Mass Development and Department of Energy Resources. It's being developed right now. This is a mechanism to allow. I remember we talked about this. Because Connecticut is doing something similar, where you will be able to finance for your taxes your energy efficiency and renewable energy improvements to your physical structures, and it's commercial buildings, industrial buildings, multi-family, these type of upgrades. One thing about this is the individual municipalities have to opt into case by voting, so it's going to be town by town. So maybe Michelle is something you guys want to think about. There's nothing out yet. I've been talking with DOER because what I want for a LEED development, by the way, we're the #1 LEED certified space station. It's great for that, to make these buildings energy efficient, renewable, and I think that's the intent. But the other thing is, can we consider, active remedial systems and their associated equipment? Can that be covered? Just looking into it, they're talking with me about it, so we'll see, and that would be really cool too if you guys could get some funding that way. So I'm still waiting to see how that's all going to play out, and that's about DOER. So stay tuned for that. I don't know if you go to those meetings. Okay, we'll talk about hydro next time. That one's probably the least likely, but still exciting nonetheless. Thank you.